Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Product and Cake. Today in the virtual studio is with me, Paul. How you doing, Paul?
Hey, Gonche. I'm doing great, thank you. Here talking from meeting box to meeting box. How
Yeah,
are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Both of us are in the meeting boxes in our office, separate offices, and yeah, we are just having a call from here. And I'm really good. I'm in the office today because we had a really nice team event.
Awesome.
And it was specifically for product and UX teams in the company.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, you saying that will become our topic today?
Yes, of course. But before that, we need to have a check-in question. Do you have a
Yes.
check-in question for us?
Yeah, definitely. So, my question today to you is, what is something about you most people would find funny if they knew?
Ooh, that's a hard one because I think I'm a little bit of an extrovert, and if I have something funny, I will share it.
Yeah, I found
um,
something.
yeah. Uh, but I think most people might not know, unless they know that I have a dog, might not know that my dog's name is Cat.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah, but you know already that.
Yeah, I knew when you are saying it, but it is funny again.
Yeah. How
Nice.
about you? What's it for you?
Yeah, that is the problem of difficult check-in questions. In the end, you
Right?
also have to answer them. Um, don't know how funny it is, but what most people are surprised if I tell them is that I was do kickbox training for about 8 years,
Really?
and this is not so usual for any engineer. Or
Yeah, that's pretty
maybe
cool.
yeah, no, was a long time ago. Maybe I should start again.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if it is in recent years or it was like when you were 8 years old and you did it for 8 years.
Not that young. I was already adult and working, but since
Nice.
the kids were born, it my
That's pretty
kickboxing
cool.
career, I had to end my kickboxing career to mitigate risks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and now that is a good opener to every team event, right?
Exactly. Checking question is very important to every team event. I I actually recently was in a workshop and they were talking about purpose-driven leadership. And one of the things that was mentioned a lot in the workshop was to make sure that everyone in the team has arrived in the meeting. And
Hmm.
it is definitely, even though you know each other very well for many, many, many years, even though you work very well closely to each other already, it is really good and worth it to spend 2 to 5 minutes of the beginning of each meeting to have a check-in question to make sure people have arrived, like the topic is gonna set up. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a fun question, and it doesn't always need to be a question, I think. It can be like a quick activity. It can be also, I remember something you did with us in the team before, Paul, that you told us to close Slack, close all of the tabs, just sit and listen to like this voice or this sound for a second and just arrive.
Yeah, that is such a great investment into a better team
Yeah.
meeting. Yeah, this 1 minute meditation to arrive, that is very powerful. It is always I always need to convince myself to do it because it also feels a little bit awkward. But I got very, very positive feedback. Like, hey, I was rushing from meeting to meeting, everything exploding in my head. And then we had this 1 minute of calm sitting, closing eyes, removing all distractions. Is really giving you the chance to arrive. And I think that is super, super easy in this virtual world because yeah, it's one question, one agenda point you're just preparing. And do you would recommend that one also to physical meetings, or maybe not to meetings, but to team events more like that are already made to be more fun like and more casual?
I I think it depends what is the reason for having that team event. Because yes, I agree that most of the time we have the team events for just fun and get to know each other, but also a lot of times we are having that team event to prepare something bigger that it is hard to fit in all of our calendars if we don't put a lot of emphasis on it. So if we
Hmm.
want to work on a strategic topics, all of the a certain group of the team together, it makes sense to have it a team event to put a lot of emphasis on it. But yeah, I do think it makes sense to have some sort of activity in the beginning to make sure people have arrived.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of time recently, especially, I don't see that we start with an activity, but there is usually a breakfast and like people chat at the time of breakfast. But I think that is still not allowing for you to arrive because you will have smaller conversations here and there.
Yeah, and it puts a lot of people in uncomfortable situations, like people that are maybe not so extrovert or
Mhm.
are just not used anymore to be around so many people, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we're working remotely or hybrid for quite a while now, so you really need to think about the people in which state do they arrive. And if I arrive at the breakfast and I sit next to the colleague I'm spending the most of my time anyway with, then we would have breakfast together, but we did not arrive and we also did not build any
Yeah.
connection to the group. And this is important to create. I think also it is something to really pay attention for, to have something like a starting point, right?
Mhm.
I maybe there is this ideal scenario or the ideal wish that, hey, we just meet more or less randomly. There are a few drinks and a little bit to eat, and then we just have a good time together. For me, this becomes more and more difficult, especially in work context. I need more guidance to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely understand. And also, the arriving part or being prepared and bringing your mindset also to the fact that, okay, we are all here together to start this conversation is it can be something really simple. Like we see also a lot of times in TED Talks or these conferences that they start with asking a question that involves everyone. That hey, raise your hand if you have ever experienced this. Like, so it
Yeah.
grabs attention. It grabs like some kind of a interaction with everyone before the topic actually starts. That allows for the mind to be prepared. But beside that, I want to also ask you, how do you go about planning a team event? Like, what are the processes? Like, do you start first from the topic that, oh, we need to talk about this thing, let's create a team event around it, or no, also, hey, we haven't bonded for such a long time, let's have a team event? And that's my first group of questions. I know it's going to be multiple questions, but then the next question is, what are the different types of team events, like for which purposes you will
Yes.
have team events?
Yeah. That is a very good question. You need to be sure about the purpose. What do you want to achieve with that meeting or with that gathering or team event? And I think what my challenge definitely is that it is super hard to really take time to prepare it properly. In
Yeah.
our overcrowded day-to-day work, we we send out a blocker, hey, this will be the workshop day or this will be our team come together thing, and then we realize, oh damn it, it's tomorrow already. Let's throw an agenda together. And this is not ideal. And every time after this team events, I'm so much in the mood of, okay, these and that needs to be much better in the next meeting, and this has to be more concrete, and here and there that was not working like expected. So I really enjoy taking this energy and put it into a document somewhere, and then pull out the document before your next meeting preparation. And yeah, let's collect some types. So you mentioned already two, the workshop to achieve something, to have strategy discussion, or bring together UI UX to talk about with product people, to talk about new processes and so on. So the really work related, outcome driven ones.
Yeah, also I think there are sometimes we do need team events as a closure of a topic. So a combination of a retro with looking back at what happened to be able to close a chapter. So this is, for example, the team events that might happen at the end of the year when the team looks back at what they have achieved and celebrates it and then moves on and prepares for the next time. And then sometimes mix the two because if the team stays the same, closing a chapter and opening a chapter can be right after another. So you don't schedule one on 21st and then the other one on 22nd, one for closing, one for opening the next chapter, but you merge the two, for example, first half of the day, second half of the day. So yeah, I would consider closing a chapter, opening a chapter, these two both do, in my opinion, require coming together and some sort of a team gathering.
And didn't we talk about this project funeral?
Yeah.
You told me about that, where they stopped the project and then they really made a ceremony out of it.
Yeah. It was a couple of years ago that when we were working on the Rainbow Road project together, and we said we do a lot of work that at some point it either gets paused or we do consider it not needed anymore, or the priorities do change, and something that we were working on is now not needed. Oftentimes we were just like, okay, stop working on it, stop thinking about it, and that just slowly dies, but we do not have closure about it. And so having a ceremony about closing a chapter is really, in my opinion, important.
Yeah, and from my perspective, a good team event should always contain, same like a good team meeting, but should contain some surprising elements, something that puts you out of the usual day-by-day business. And I really love the idea on this funeral that they had a small box, right, that they put symbolic into the ground and then throw keyboard keys on it. And this is nice. This is something a little bit awkward, a little bit strange, but also these exciting, unusual moments that create real belonging, right? Because the people start to talk, hey, do you remember these and that? And that was really funny. I never did that before. And I think it's worth to find these moments.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what you said was really interesting, that what are the levels of an team event. And to be honest, I think it goes a little bit beyond only the team events. I think we can also use it in a lot of other aspects to look at the for organizing like events, organizing meetings, to go through the hierarchy of needs of Maslow and start from, okay, the physiological needs, like where is it going to be hosted, are there going to be food available, is it access to water, like if the meeting is quite long, like taking care of people that, okay, they're not exhausted, they are not there are certain breaks between the chapters. So this is really important. And then going a little bit further in terms of safety, it doesn't necessarily need to be only the physical safety that, okay, yeah, of course, hosted in a safe location that everyone feels comfortable to get to, but also have in mind that people are open to share topics. It is a psychological safe location as well. And there are enough resources for people to be able to open up. And then we go to the love and belonging aspect to create this sense of connection. So to have some sort of connectivity gain between people. And it, again, doesn't need to be a lot of these catchy games, or we are going to play this game, we are going to play that game. It can be very simple, questions that people in groups of 3 or 4 need to answer for themselves and share with each other. And again, in the workshop that I went to for purpose-driven leadership, I don't think most of the things that I took from that workshop was actually the content that the presenters presented, but rather that the conversations that we've had, that I've got to know the purpose and deep thoughts of a lot of my colleagues during that workshop. So that was the connection piece. And then we go to the STEAM aspect. So the recognition, what are we recognizing in this event? So some sort of celebration, some sort of positivity to make sure that it flows throughout the day. And then the last part, the self-actualization aspect, we can consider this. Okay, there needs to be something more than just the basics. There needs to be a surprise. There needs to be an added value on top of everything. And you take something home with you, not necessarily physically take something home, like don't take a monitor home, but like something that adds value to you, you take with yourself.
Yeah, that is a very great guideline. I really like it. What came to my mind when you talked about connectivity is, and these games, right? I mean, they have so much power, but they should not be artificial.
Exactly.
Right? If you just choose something from a random website and you also don't feel it, then this will not work. You need to find someone who's really into it and who really strives to run these kind of activities. And if that is the case, I think that you really feel it if you participate.
Yeah. And also it is important to understand, with everything in product, it is the same to understand your audience and prepare for them. So if your audience is a group of very, for example, senior leadership, and in front of them you put a very, very basic, without a thought, basic game that at the end there is no reason to do that game, is just a game for the sake of a game, it's gonna of course not work out. So and this is the same for everyone. So your game and the connectivity games that needs to be played needs to have a purpose. Like, what are you trying to achieve with that? It's not just putting people together randomly and telling them to go play.
That is super true, and it brings me to another question. What do you think about talking about diversity and to be sensitive about the diverse backgrounds of the people? What do you think about alcohol and meat if we talk about catering?
Ooh, great point. So in my perspective, I do understand that, especially like at least what I've seen in Germany, people have very easy relationship with alcohol, and it is available everywhere and at any point. And unfortunately, sometimes there is a judgment if you don't participate in that, even in work setup. So my suggestion is always to have, if you have a cocktail station, make sure the cocktail station has a mocktail station, because sometimes you want to still drink this fancy looking drinks that has a lot of different colors and a lot of nice ice, but also you don't want the alcohol in it. So this fact, to make sure that people can still, to some extent, disguise, they do not need to disclose what they're drinking, that needs to be taken into consideration, as well as a meat. What I usually take care when I'm ordering catering, I can actually read it from my list, my text that I usually send out when I'm ordering the catering. Let me find it for a second. Because it's not only the meat topic, it is also the different type of allergies that needs to be considered. And yeah, so what I write usually is 20% vegan, 50% vegetarian, 30% meat, and we do have restrictions for halal, lactose free, gluten free, and peanut allergies.
I would be much, much more strict on that one because I think, I mean, I had several decades of experiences in the startup world, and especially in my early days, a team meeting was always beer and people, and everything else just evolved, and it was fantastic. It was so nice, and we were all diversity perspective wise super close, right? We just finished school and we spend time together and were drinking anyway, so that was more party like with a little bit business relation to it. But today, I think inside the work context we should not drink. We have so many different reasons why not to drink, be it religious, be it for health perspective, be it just because I don't want to have this pressure, this peer pressure of what, you are not drinking, then no one drinks until a certain point when we say, okay, now the team meeting is over and now we go into the evening part and everyone can do what they want. But also, if someone wants to leave it because they don't want to see their drunken colleagues and want to see how everyone gets more and more wasted, they should be free to leave and not have any obligations to stay. This is the one thing. And the other one, on the meat side, our planet is so fucked, right? And when we pay for good catering, why not having the default it is maybe 50% vegan and 50% vegetarian? Because there are very smart people thinking about how to make delicious food. I have problems to do that at home because I'm so used to my meat way of eating. So we pay people to have great ideas, so they should have vegetarian ideas, and everyone needs to get used to it. I mean, that should just be not a question. I don't buy plenty of chickens for an artificial team meeting. Yeah,
that is fair. I will try that in our next team meeting. Actually, I have a team meeting planned for, I think, I don't know when this episode is going to be released, but my next team event that I have planned is on 5th of September 2024. We had a full day team event, and I will do that. I will have the catering only vegan, vegetarian, and for sure the team event is during the day. So during the day we usually, and it is not part of the plan to have alcohol served, but sometimes in the evenings we do. So yeah, it's gonna be a no alcohol, but because it's during the day, and the vegan and vegetarian team event, and I can report back how it goes.
Yes, awesome. I also have still on my list to plan our next team day, and I will also schedule it now for beginning of September, and then we can compare our how do you call it?
Experiments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. So let me quickly rephrase or summarize. I noted 5 important steps you should consider when thinking about your next team meeting. First of all, it is purpose and the type. Why are you doing this thing? Then think about the arriving. Arriving is very, very crucial and sets the tone, even though it's just the inner tone, but sets the tone of the people on how much they will contribute to that meeting. Think about the location. That is something we did not dive too deep into, but I think it's very worth to think about it. Catering, we just touched, and the connectivity part. And all of that is obviously based on your great summary of the Maslow pyramid. That could give you a good additional way of thinking, right? To at least go once through it and find out if you thought about the different aspects.
Amazing summary.
I hope that we have some more episodes between beginning of September and today, but I'm very optimistic that we will make that. And Goncha, thank you very much for this team event icing cake.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Paul.
Bye.
Bye.